Hi Kirtik, welcome to InternPro's OPT-Unplugged. Introduce yourself and tell us a bit about you.
Hi Dominic, glad to be here. My name is Kirtik Singh and I am working as a Senior Frontend Engineer at Cardonne Ventures in Scottsdale, Arizona. Previously, I graduated from Arizona State University with a Master's in Computer Science in May of 2024. So that's what I do. Over at Cardonne Ventures, I'm building products that are used by internal teams. So there's a lot of LLM products, there's a lot of front-end work, back-end work. So I'm not just limited to front-end, which my role states, but there's a lot of building things for people that people do like to use. So that's mostly about it.
So what kind of challenges did you face after graduation, especially during your post-OPT period?
During the post-OPT period, I think the toughest things that anyone that would be going through is usually the fear of not being deported, but basically losing out on the days of unemployment, because you get 90 days of unemployment on your post-OPT, and those 90 days really go quick. It sounds like a lot, but it isn't. I graduated in May, and my OPT started somewhere in June end. So that means I had 3 months from then to find a job. Otherwise, I'd be losing out on my days, and those days are cumulative. That's not like every time you lose a job, you get 90 days. So I think that timeline is the most brutal thing that anyone could face. And to find a job, given the timeline, given a job market that's not doing really well, especially in tech, it's not a great experience. I think it's mostly the timeline and also the job market. I mean, it keeps changing. Some people say it's bad, some people say it's good, some people say it's getting better. But again, till the time you find a job, it's not really good for you. So it doesn't matter what others are saying.
Makes sense. Yeah, that's totally fair. So how did you hear about InternPro and what made you decide to join the platform?
So I got a mail from one of our faculties at ASU approximately a month before my graduation that there's a platform called InternPro that lets you work with startup companies or companies that are in the very early stages. So they're building really quick, they're shipping really quick. And it was an opportunity where you don't get paid, but you get a lot of experience. And at times when you have just graduated and you haven't been able to find a job or a co-op during your master's timeline, it creates a gap in your resume, which is really important to fill. So sometimes people are skeptical about, like a lot of my peers were skeptical about, doing something unpaid. But I found out that it might be a good option, and just to try it out, because if I'm able to get something and if I'm doing good work, I get to learn. And I get to ship products, so I'm more updated with the market. I'm also getting upskilled, and I do build experience. So that's why I tried to give it a shot, and I had a pretty good experience over there.
Yeah, that's amazing. So what was your first impression of InternPro, and like how you mentioned the fact that like you were skeptical about the platform, and like with all the other uncertain things that come your way, how would it compare with the other platforms that offer the same kind of solutions?
There's other. I don't really know about other platforms that might do something like InternPro. So it was one of those things where it was the first time hearing about something. Most of the things that people encounter are other staffing companies which say that they work in a lot of similar ways, but then there comes a huge amount of skepticism with them as well, because you don't know whether it's legal or not. The fact that this is legal, very well documented, I think that builds trust. And once you have more peers that are doing the same thing as you are, I think you get to talk to them and see whether it's a good fit for you or not.
I think you covered what motivated you to join InternPro as well, but like so yeah, it's going to be a straightforward question. So how has InternPro helped you in upskilling or like gain new skills in your field of work?
So during my master's degree, it's mostly project based. Most of the courses that I did were project based. So you get to learn a lot of technologies depending on what course it is, if you're doing something new, if it's something you've done before. But a lot of times it's very limited in terms of the scope. So you have a project scope that is mostly defined either by a professor or it's defined by you, and you have a limited time to do something about it. So you keep on switching projects every 3-4 months. You keep on changing what you use, what tools you're using. So for me, it could be a different backend architecture. It could be a different language that I'm using for the front end. It could be a lot of different things. It could be AWS sometimes, or a cloud computing course, for example. What InternPro enabled me to do was firstly to think towards a single product which was being built. So whatever my company was building is essentially what I'm working for. So it's like a full-time role. So you're building towards something which is more defined, more structured, and that's why you put a lot of effort naturally in order to get better at those. So for example, in my company, the stack we were using was React for the front end, which is JavaScript based, and Python for the back end. There were also databases, it was mostly Postgres. So the thing is that when you start working with a particular stack and you're developing features on and on, you're working there for like 3-4 months continuously, it gives you a better idea about how companies actually work. So it's more similar to how a full-time role would be for you. So essentially you're getting something like a full-time experience because you're working with a company that is developing products that will someday be generating revenue. Apart from that, once you're working towards these things, these are also ideas which you can use in your interviews. So for me, during my Amazon interview, I did not get to clear it. But at the same time, I got to talk about a lot of things that I was working on, and most of those were features or internal products that I was building for InternPro. So I was working with a language called Svelte, not a language, it's actually a framework, but it's pretty new, not a lot of people use it. So I feel like that experience wouldn't have been possible unless I was, given a task and I had to do it. And that's usually when you are working under a company or towards a product goal instead of, doing a project by yourself. You're not as motivated when you're doing something by yourself. And also you're getting employment, so it builds in your experience and your resume.
Expand a little bit more on that, like what are the cutting edge tools or technologies that you used?
So I think there's Stripe is something being used by a lot of developers, by a lot of companies for their monetization of products and in general payment processing. And irrespective of how much someone would think that Stripe is a product in itself, it's also important to learn about, like, this is just an example by the way, like it's also important to learn about how Stripe integration works. So when I was working in InternPro, one of the tasks that I had was to integrate a referral system so that you can essentially, get some sort of a benefit when you refer to someone else to the platform, whether it's another company, so a company referring another company, or let's say a student referring another student. So I think that's one of the main features that I had also worked on, which I also got to learn a lot more about in terms of how Stripe worked, how Stripe integration worked. So I think that was one of the very important things that I learned. Apart from that, it was mostly the latest technologies that at least my company was using. So React, Django, which is Python based in the backend, Supabase, which is based on Postgres. I think those are new technologies which, once you get a hands-on with it, working in any other company which uses any similar stack also, it might not be exactly the same thing. But if it's based upon the same principles, I think it gives you a very good understanding of how to use it, what the daily usability of writing code in that particular language looks like, and then you get familiar very quickly.
That's pretty good. Let's say from the perspective of resume or building confidence, how did the tools that you learned or the technologies that you learned at InternPro or the company that you work at InternPro helped you crack those interviews, or even help you keep yourself updated in the terms of the trends in your field?
That's actually a very good question. So I think how it works is, I'll give you an example of React, for example. For example, if you're in an interview with a company that is using React for their tech stack, or if it's using Angular for their tech stack, when you have used a particular set of tools or technologies or a language framework for even 1 month or 2 months, and you're developing on it and not just learning it from a tutorial or seeing interview questions for it, it's much easier to talk about it. So if you've just seen a worksheet that specifies React interview questions, which a lot of us do, we do that all the time, and it's something unfamiliar that we have to prepare for. You might learn the top 100 questions, and you might even be really good at narrating them. But if someone gives you a situation on how to use it, so if it's if it's not a theoretical definition that someone's asking you, but if it's a question like how would you manage state across browsers or across windows, if you haven't used use states or local storage, session storage, if you don't know about those concepts by working through it, it's really hard to actually talk in interviews that well. So for people who really want you to get up and running quickly as soon as you join, it's really important that you work with a particular set of technologies and you're not just quick at learning. So quick at learning gets you to certain places, but then if you worked with something before, you naturally are much more, you have a better flow in talking about it. You have it all in your head, so you can just spit it out really quick. The person taking your interview knows that you know what you're talking about. And eventually in the job market, when you are being compared against thousands, tens of thousands of people, when even small jobs that are opened on LinkedIn have like 2,000, 3,000 applications in a day, it's very hard to stand out. And in an interview, if you can just demonstrate that confidence, it makes a huge difference.
Perfect. Talk about your experience working with the team at the company that you worked for.
Yep. So at W4M, it was a pretty small team of developers. So they're like 5 or 6 developers in total. I had a beautiful time working with the team in general, because even though people kept coming in and going out, it did not feel like you were not familiar with who's working on what. Because there were team meetings, at least in our team and in our company. The meetings were very structured, the team roles were very structured. It did not take very long to understand what you had to do and why it was important. So I think that breakdown, even by the product managers who were working with us, was really good. So in general, like, peer reviews were really good. Talking to someone made you learn about a lot more things. And in general, like, the CEO of our company was really updated with the kind of technologies that were going on. He was really deep into AI, and every new model that came in, he used to put something in the chat, and he used to, if you were curious enough, you would go and learn about it, because if you're not updated, it might take you like 1 week to get completely shifted away from what's happening in the market. It's very transparent in that sense.
Yeah.
So my experience was really good. My teammates were really supportive. If I had help, I used to just quickly huddle with my teammates, and it used to get resolved pretty quickly. There was nothing like, oh, this is not the right time to huddle or anything like that. And it is also facilitated by the product managers as well as the leadership of the team.
Awesome. That sounds amazing. Have you received any kind of feedback from your company that you would like to share that helped you improve?
Yeah, sure. So I use a new tool that came out and pushed a change, and something broke. Happens all the time. Happens with interns. It's also called like the new intern phenomenon. So I pushed something out, and we had like a huge discussion about how to effectively use AI and AI editors like Cursor or Windsurf to generate code that's good quality, and to also have a practice of reviewing it all the time. Code usually does not get pushed to production unless it's being reviewed by some person. So it might not be the highest person in the team writing that code. If it's written and if it's going to be pushed to production, it has to be reviewed. So I think that creates a good practice. It's something where I messed up, but after that it became a part of company culture to not let anyone else mess up, because mistakes happens all the time. But I think the use of AI and how to effectively use something without compromising on your code quality is something really important. So that's one of the feedbacks that I had received.
Perfect. That's a great example. Can you tell a particular moment where you felt proud of your contribution to the company at InternPro?
So for me, one of the most important things that I did essentially was develop like an autosave feature. There was another feature that I worked for, which was the referral feature that I also talked about. I think that was super important, because when it's a new company, so InternPro had started out with a very small set of interns, and they grew really quick in my time. So I think we were supporting around 2,000 to 3,000 interns at that point, and there were several other companies and startups that were coming to join. The quality of companies that were hiring had increased substantially. So I think these two were like really simple but crucial features that I had built in my time, and I'm pretty sure they would be like super helpful even now.
Yeah. Give me 3 words that would best describe InternPro or your experience at InternPro. Yeah.
3 words.
3 words.
That's an interesting question. I would say, I don't want to use simple words like technology, because but honestly,
yeah, it's about your experience, right? Like I don't know if technology would come.
I think one is going to be learning, because I learned a lot, and I got a lot of work experience which I wouldn't have gotten otherwise. It was almost like working for a full-time company that has a goal, that has a target, that has things to do in the future to grow. So I think learning is really important, even though it's like a very simple term. What else? AI, it's a buzzword, but at the same time, at least in my company, the use of AI was really beneficial, not just to us who are writing code, but in general. Like Fred, who was the CEO, pushed us to use AI tools as much as we could, and responsibly. So I think being updated with AI right now is super important. If you're not, you are lagging behind, and you don't know when someone else who's using AI will get the best of you in a very short amount of time. So that's learning, that's AI. and experiential, maybe, because I gained a lot of experience.
In what way you are balancing between applying for jobs and searching for jobs and like while working for a company for 20 hours a week? So how did that happen? How did that go?
Yeah, so I was working for like 20 to 25 hours for my company each week, and time tracking is very simple. At least in technology, you know how, and you can estimate how much time will it take for developing a particular feature, or to release it, or to test something if something gets broken. So I think it's very easy to keep a track, at least for tech-focused companies. I can't speak about others. And in terms of balancing, I think balancing is something you have to do all the time. So even if you're doing a full-time role for like 40 hours, 45 hours a week, if you want to switch a role, you will have to find out time to apply for it. Whether it's some sleepless nights that you follow, or if it's a particular slot of a day that you spend regularly on applying for jobs. So for me, whenever I was doing work, I was focused on work. But once I got off, I used to spend some time with my friends, but I also used to apply all the time. So applying was really crucial because I was honestly mass applying. Because you don't know where you can get your application first. It might be seen by someone. So your application has to be good. It has to be one of the earlier ones to get in. It has to have high visibility. So my target was to just apply as much as possible. So right after I was done with my work, anything that was assigned to me, I used to go back, apply. So you have to also spend time applying and upskilling yourself, or doing lead code if that's what your role requires. Building projects for UX folks, I think it's very important to build your portfolio, keep it updated, and just keep changing it according to whatever is latest coming up. So I think you also need to keep doing those things. Otherwise, once you get an interview, you won't be able to land a job.
Yeah.
So that's something I faced because I was not great at lead code, and I messed up my first interview. So that's when I realized that I should also be dedicating some time in upskilling and just being great at other things that I wasn't spending time on, and I was just spending time on applying jobs.
That's where InternPro came.
That's where InternPro also came. So
beacon of hope for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Perfect. I mean that's a great tip in terms of like applying and how to keep the entire schedule in balance, or like basically managing your hours in a day or a week. So that's amazing. I think you covered that as well. Like because my next question was going to be, what's the one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's starting the journey, like just graduating. I think like this May they're gonna graduate. So
and like don't lose hope. So I graduated in May, and I started my role. So I graduated on 5th May, I think. My OPT started on June 26th, I believe. And then it took me almost like 6 months to find a job. So I landed my first role in the end of December. I started in January. So that was a huge gap. And a lot of people start losing hope eventually. But you have to see what others are doing around you, because everyone was like, it's hard to get a job. The market is so bad. It was bad during COVID. It was bad when I came in 2022. It was bad in 2024. It's bad even right now. But my hope was that at least someone is getting a job, right? It's not like everyone is not getting a job right now. There is someone who's getting it. There's some friend of mine who got into a company, whether it's a big one, it's a startup, it could be anything. So that should be how you maintain your focus. And there's days when you feel burnt out, but at the same time you have to get back up as soon as possible, because the more you stay burnt out, it's not helping you. So take a day off, spend some time with your friends, going out, do whatever you like to do, play a musical instrument, whatever helps you basically. But get back on track and just keep applying, keep your head down, and till the time you get a role.
Okay, so I think this is going to be my last question to you. So what would you say to someone who's hesitant to join InternPro?
The hesitation, I think what I can say would be to put myself in their shoes and think what they might be, because I think that's the best way to solve a problem, to just think how you would have dealt with it. I think it's important to always take a chance. When you know something might turn out to be good, it's important to jump out of your comfort zone, even if you think you have some sort of skepticism. It's important to keep trying, and just keep trying anything, like any technology, any company, any opportunity, because that's what I did. And my biggest skepticism was firstly the work visa or the things around it. But when I read the rules for I think USCIS for what you're allowed to do, when I read what InternPro was doing, and since it was also something that was sent by a faculty member, we knew we could trust it. And I think folks like me who are talking about our experiences, I think that also helps a lot of people because they can contact us at any time. There's a lot of people like me who have found jobs after working at InternPro, and eventually you move out of the platform. And I think it's been a great experience so far. The only challenges I think is to firstly believe that you will be finding a role at InternPro and just things like those. But I think it eventually, like, I don't think someone would have taken longer than 2 or 3 weeks to land a role at a good company. And a lot of people are working in those companies for like 6 to 7 months, and that's like 6 months of experience on your resume that you wouldn't have been able to get otherwise.
Yeah.
So just imagine if someone is hiring you, like if I am hiring you, and if I see that you've been working for a company for 6 months, you've developed features that align with my company's principles, and I find that you might be a good candidate. It's very easy for me to come up to you and see you as a good candidate, hire you. So just think in terms of how the interviewer would think. Don't think that you're not getting paid or compensated for your time that you're putting here, because the compensation is really, really in terms of your experience.
Perfect. That's an amazing way to end, actually. But yeah, thank you so much for joining us today for this InternPro's OPT Unplugged, and it was great talking to you. And thank you for all the tips that you gave for our viewers and also the students who are going to graduate this May. So it was great talking.